Hello, everyone, and good evening. I could not be more excited that you are here to spend your Thursday evening with myself and two incredible authors who I just had the pleasure of talking to behind the scenes. And I know we are in for an amazing conversation that is going to be just so much fun. My name is Stephanie, and I'm going to be your moderator for this evening. I work at the Novel Neighbor. We are a local if you're in St. Louis. We are an independently owned and operated bookstore that can be found in St. Louis, Missouri, more specifically Webster Groves, if you know the area. We are so excited to be your host for this evening. Our first author is the amazing Sarah Smith, who is a copywriter turned author who wants to make the world a lovelier place, one kissing story at a time. Her love of romance began when she was 8, and she discovered her auntie's stash of romance novels. She's been hooked ever since. When she's not writing, you can find her hiking, eating chocolate, and perfecting her lumpia recipe. She lives in Bend, Oregon with her husband and her adorable cat, Salem. Her most recent novel is On Location. Jane Igharo, author of Ties That Tether, was born in Nigeria and immigrated to Canada at the age of 12. She has a journalism degree from the University of Toronto and works as a communication specialist in Ontario, Canada. When she isn't writing, she's watching Homecoming for the 100th time and trying to match Beyoncé's vocals to no avail. And I am so excited. She is our star of this evening with her newest book, The Sweetest Remedy, which has turned into one of my personal favorites. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring Sarah and Jane on for their discussion. Hi, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi. Jane, congratulations. Happy Pub Week.
Thank you, Sarah.
No, this is so, I know we chatted about it earlier. I'm just super excited to be able to talk to you face to face. And I'm a big fan of yours. I read your first book, Ties That Tether, and I'm loving The Sweetest Remedy. So yeah, how's it feel? Book number 2.
It feels still like the first book. I don't think releasing a book ever gets old. It always feels like, whoa, is this my life right now?
I'm so glad you said that because I feel that way too, in a lot of ways, and it's always really exciting, and the response from readers is always the fun part that makes me the happiest, probably.
Yeah.
I guess I have some questions I wanted to ask you, and we can dive right in unless there's something you want to kick off some other way or anything like that.
No, we can just dive in.
Okay, awesome. So, first question I had is, do you want to just tell us a little bit about The Sweetest Remedy, just to give everybody an idea of what the book is about?
Sure. So The Sweetest Remedy is about a biracial woman, Hannah Bailey. She's part white and part Nigerian, but she's never really had a relationship with her Nigerian father or that part of her family. When she gets news that her father in Nigeria has passed away and she's invited to the funeral, she considers but decides to go. And while in Nigeria, she goes to Banana Island, which is a very affluent area in Lagos, Nigeria. And she meets her siblings for the first time, brothers and sisters who are basically Nigerian royalty. She also meets a family friend called Lawrence, who she has a romance with. And while there, she just connects with her siblings, learns a lot about herself, her culture, her identity, and her father. And the story is about love, family, forgiveness, and deciding the kind of person you want to be, not just based on your family or your identity, but based on your own definition.
Yeah, when I read the blurb for it, I was sucked in immediately. I'm like, this sounds incredible, and I love the way that how family is such an important part of the stories that you write. I think that that's a really wonderful theme to weave into romance. And so, what inspired this book for you?
Oh, I had an idea, but it wasn't very solid. It was about a biracial woman who wanted to connect with her father that she never knew. But then I was watching one of my favorite movies, my favorite Nigerian movies called Chief Daddy. And I love that movie so much. It's on Netflix, by the way. It's about a very wealthy family who come together when the patriarch dies, and they're mad, they're chaotic, they're full of drama, and it's just the funeral arrangement and the funeral day is just an entire mess. but it's really funny, and the characters are just very wholesome. And even though you're like they're kind of crazy, you kind of love them. And so I really love that idea, and I wanted to make it my own.
That's awesome. That sounds amazing. I'm gonna add that to my Netflix queue when I have some time to take a break from writing stuff and watch something fun on Netflix. That sounds amazing. Um, so what so what was it like writing The Sweetest Remedy compared to writing Ties That Tether? Like, did you have a different process, or was it pretty much the same, or was there like a different meaning behind this book that made it different from your debut?
This was a bit more difficult to write, The Sweetest Remedy. Ties That Tether was very easy to write because it was based on my experiences and it was very personal. Whereas The Sweetest Remedy was not personal. I can't say I can relate to Hannah's journey, but I just wanted to write an interesting story that I loved. And so I really had to get into Hannah's head and try to understand her weaknesses and the cause of her growth. And I also had to it's a multiple perspective novel, and we get to hear a bit from the siblings, Hannah's siblings, and her love interest. And so her siblings they have very distinct personalities, and I really had to define who they were and their motives and their concerns, and really get into their head and tell their story very distinctly. So a lot of characters trying to juggle all that, so it was a bit difficult, but I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, I'm always like blown away when writers can do multiple POVs, because that for me would get really confusing. So you handled that really well. So well
Thank
done.
you.
um, so like you said, your book weaves between the points of view of all the family members in the book as well as the main character, Hannah. Why did you feel it was important to include all of their perspectives in this book?
Well, I didn't think you. I thought it would be unfair to have all these big characters and not have their perspective. And these characters came in with their own stories and their own ideas and concerns after meeting a new sister and learning that their father was a huge liar. And so I wanted to show how they were dealing with his death and his secrets and the aftermath of it all.
Yeah, that is really I on I thought like having that as kind of the catalyst to bring all of the characters together, like the death of their dad, and he was this very like imperfect character in a lot of ways, but it also kind of humanized him in a way too, because we're all not perfect. I mean, hopefully we all don't do things that he does in the book. But I mean, I don't want to give it away because everybody should run out and buy this book and read it because it's amazing. Um, but yeah, that was really interesting. Was it hard at times to keep all of the POVs in order, or did at some point did you just get like used to going back and forth and writing?
Um, when the first draft of this book, there was like a few POVs, like a few here, a few there. But then the manuscript was complete, and I was editing it, and I decided to add maybe make one character have more than one chapter dedicated to them, maybe two or three, depending on what I felt was right. There's one character who doesn't get chapters. Hannah's sister, child, I can't remember her name.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, I wrote this book like a long time ago. She's one of the twins. I want to Dami. There it is. Dami didn't get a chapter because I didn't feel like she needed one, but I thought other characters needed one chapter or maybe more, and so I just kind of sprinkled them in where it felt natural.
Yeah, I like that you did that, because sometimes I feel like when I read something with multiple POVs, it feels very like regimented, and like it doesn't seem like it's necessary to always have the POV, but like to have it more natural, like you did it, like if it made sense for a character's POV to come in, then you went with that. So I thought that worked really well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the story takes place primarily in Nigeria, and much like Hannah, the reader is shown a culture and location they may not be familiar with. Did you feel any pressure to present Nigeria in a certain way so that readers would respond to the setting, or was it just kind of how you naturally wanted to explore that part of the book?
I don't know if I felt pressure, like to Nigerian readers or like readers everywhere in
Yeah,
general.
yeah, like readers everywhere, but you could also I could totally see how you could see like Nigerian readers too.
Yeah. Well, I live in Canada, but I went to Nigeria at the end of last year. I'm sorry, not last year, 2019,
Yeah.
pandemic and everything. But at the end of 2019, I went to Nigeria for the first time after like 17 years or so. And I experienced it differently. Things were the same and things were new. So it was very fun experiencing that again. And I was experiencing things as a citizen and also as a foreigner because I had been away for so long. And I just wanted to portray what thought Nigeria was. I didn't want to please anyone's idea of Nigeria. I just wanted to show the two sides of Nigeria that I saw. I went to the market a lot because my uncle was getting married. So we went to go buy like supplies, clothes, and all that stuff. It was very fun. I loved the market. So I really wanted to portray the market. And there's a scene there with the market. There's also a very affluent area of Nigeria called Banana Island where Hannah is with her family. And I wanted to portray that too because it's a very luxurious place that people don't always know exists in Nigeria. And so it was so much fun writing that. And I wanted to portray two sides of Nigeria.
Yeah, I like as a reader who I have not been to Nigeria, I think you painted such a beautiful, vivid picture of a place that I don't think most readers have been to Nigeria. So that was really fun to get lost in the setting of the
Hmm.
book. Did you? So you mentioned like wanting to represent Nigeria in that way. Like, did you feel kind of, or did you put any of your own experience when you wrote Hannah as a character? Because she, like, part of like her dad is from Nigeria, but she doesn't feel a big connection to that part of her at the beginning of the book. But obviously, as the book goes on, she starts to feel that. Did you put any of yourself into her when you wrote her?
I don't think I did.
Yeah.
It's very strange to write a character and not have yourself in them. But when I look at Hannah, I don't see any part of myself. I just see a woman that is so completely different from me in her experience. And I think it's really wonderful that I can still tell her story, even though I don't truly understand her. And I wouldn't say understand her, but have her experiences. And I spoke to people who were biracial because I wanted to make sure I was portraying her character accurately. And I have gotten feedback from biracial readers who say this is an accurate portrayal, and it makes me feel so honored because um, when I'm writing someone's experiences that aren't mine, I want to do it justice. Hannah is Nigerian, but she's also part white, and it was important that I portrayed her struggles or experiences as a biracial woman accurately.
Yeah, I think you represented that really well in the book. It was really beautifully done. As somebody who is outside of that community, as a reader, I thought it was really beautifully done.
Thank you.
So, The Sweetest Remedy contains a really beautiful love story, but it's also a story about reconnecting to your roots and connecting to family. What would you say is the significance of the themes of like identity and love and family in this book?
What are the themes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh, you can finish.
Oh yeah. I just what are the themes concerning like identity, family, love, all of those things you kind of explore in the book.
Um, well, Hannah meets her family, and when she meets them, she's living, I think, kind of like a life. She's living in a way where she's not aware that she isn't happy. And maybe she's kind of aware, but she's kind of brushed it to the side and grown content with the fact that she's not completely happy. And she's found ways to make her mother, her best friend, her job seem like enough. But it's not enough. And she doesn't acknowledge that until she goes to Nigeria and she meets her family. And she really understands or confronts the fact that she isn't satisfied with who she is. She doesn't love herself enough. And I really, culture and identity is something I love exploring. Those are things that I'm very fascinated by because you're so vast. And I explored them in like more than one character in this book. But I also wanted to introduce the theme of love, not just romantic love, but familial love. And that was very important to me. But also self-love. And Hannah realizes that she's lacking greatly with self-love, and she grows and she kind of works on that. So love in general was, I think, the biggest theme in this book.
Yeah, I love that. That's such an important theme to drive home because I think, especially in the romance rom-com genre, we forget about self-love. So I love that you prioritize that in your storytelling. Is there a favorite character that you have that you liked writing in this book?
Yeah, that's a character like I love so much, and I feel like I should write a story just for him. His name is Shagoo. He's Hannah's younger brother, and he's just so he's also struggling with identity and such. And he comes in the book very arrogant with this false African American accent and swag, which he's just trying to portray something that isn't him because he's not really sure of who he wants to be. I had so much fun writing him. Um, I don't know. To me, he's a little brother. He's still growing up. He's funny. He's chill, and he's my favorite character.
No, I love that. I think it's fun to have that bit of like the main character having like a sibling who like comes in and kind of shakes things up like that. That's always fun. Is he based on anyone you know, or is he just completely a figment of your imagination?
He's actually based on the movie Chief Daddy. If you watch it, there's a
Mhm.
character who's like you would recognize him immediately as
Yeah.
Shagun. He wants to be a rapper, even though he's terrible at it. When I first when I first wrote Shagun, he that was him. But then as I edited, I wanted to give him more depth and the reason for why he acted that way. And so there's a character in Chief Daddy that inspires Shagun, but I think Shagun's a better character because he has depth.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I love that like you took inspiration from that movie, but it's also as much as I love, Netflix movies, series, and stuff like that. There's just something about being able to read a character in a book. I feel like a lot of times they're so much better fleshed out, because you get to know their thoughts behind
Mhm.
the things that they do in the book. So yeah, that's so cool to know the backstory of that. That's awesome.
Thanks. I feel
Do you,
like re- reading in general is just better than watching a movie. Like you can never really know what a character's thinking in a movie all the time, hardly, but a book is just so personal. So I love it better.
Honestly, I'm so glad you said that because I totally agree. And I feel like
Yeah,
I talk to people about that in my real life. I'm like, actually, I'd rather read. They're like, what?
yeah.
You're out of your mind. It's so much better. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of movies and shows that I love, but there is just something about reading and having that. I just feel like it infiltrates my brain in a more enjoyable way.
I agree completely. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite scene that you wrote in the book? Or do you have a favorite scene that you wrote? Or if you want to
Oh,
talk about it, I know if you don't want to give it away, I totally understand. But
there's so many scenes I loved. I love there's a cake scene, the cake fight scene.
mhm.
Um, it's childish, it's necessary, it's funny. Um, I love that scene very much. I also really love the market scene when Lawrence takes Hannah to Ajegule, which is like a slum, and that was a very it's a place that exists and it's very very sad. But I love that even in that environment there was something that was very special and beautiful, which was the market that was very vibrant, and I love describing the market and the people in it, and also just telling the story of how Nigerians, many of them don't always have the best opportunities, even though they go to school, but they make something out of nothing. And yeah, I really wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah, no, I love that. This kind of maybe goes along with that, but I was curious about your writing process. Like, what if you ascribe to a certain structure or routine or schedule when you wrote this book versus, Ties That Tether, which was your very first book. Um, did you do anything differently, or do you have like routines, rituals, anything in particular? Do you just write whenever you feel like it, or?
I have bad habits when it comes to that that I'm trying to break. I can just be so immersed in writing. It's truly an issue that I neglect everything: cooking, eating, working out, eating right. I can just eat junk. And I just write from like morning to like midnight, maybe to 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. And that's not the way to go. So that's how I've been writing whenever like I'm working. That's how I wrote The Sweetest Remedy. And that's how I wrote my third novel, Worth Having. So currently, I'm working on another book, and I'm trying to give myself structure and treat it like a 9 to 5,
Mhm.
or yeah. So write from like just like 8 hours a day, and then make room for other things, working out, reading more books because I have so many books I need to catch up on, and just doing more fun stuff. So I have bad writing habits that I'm working to amend.
You know what though? I'm glad that you admitted that because I think a lot of people just assume like, oh, it's you start at this time and the words flow and it comes easily and that's really not. I feel like a lot of bad habits are born out of just you figure out what you need to do to write the book
Yeah.
and
It's
like
tricky because even when you write and you're like, okay, I'm done for today, I try to say I'm done, but then I say, let me go to sleep, let me take a nap. Then I start to imagine things and I fall asleep to the pictures of my book, just lulling me to sleep like a lullaby. And I dream about them. And then I wake up and I have, it's just a cycle. I
yeah, it is.
need to break.
Yeah, it's so hard because I feel like it's so hard to shut your brain off. I don't know if you get that way too, but when you said like, oh, when you try to go to sleep, you start picturing things about your characters. I'm like, yep, that
Yeah,
happens to me
yeah,
too. And it's great, but it's also annoying if you want to get some sleep. But I think that's great that you're trying to you know, try a more structured technique for your third book. That's awesome. But obviously whatever you're doing is working because you wrote two amazing books
thank
beforehand,
you.
even with
But
your
can you
bad
give me any
habits.
tips on how to break this cycle? Like, what do you do?
Oh my, no, you don't want to. Not that I do anything bad. I also have a lot of bad habits. Like I write late at night. I'll write till like last night I stayed up till 4 in the morning to finish something. That's not. I wouldn't recommend that. That's not healthy behavior. It's so hard though because so much of writing is like based on okay, I'm inspired to write this scene or I'm inspired to keep going with this flow that I'm experiencing and
Mhm.
it's you can't just like pick up and do that some days, like you have to just go with. And some days it's not going to come to you. So some days you're not just going to have a day where you're not going to write and you're going to, watch Netflix all day and that's okay because I think your brain needs a
Yeah,
break, you know.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's it's the writer's process is imperfect, but I think because we create such wonderful, entertaining, beautiful things, I think it's okay that it's a little bit imperfect, in
Yeah.
my opinion. um, so what was your favorite part about writing this book? If you
Oh, I
could
love the
narrow it
glamour.
down. Yeah.
I feel like naturally, I just love glamour all the time. If I could walk around in a ball gown from like the 1900, I would, specifically that era.
Mhm. I think that's amazing. That's
So I just love glamour. So I just wanted to and elaborate things, of course, like they go hand in hand for me. And so I just wanted to I was so happy to have a shopping scene with, you know, brand name clothes and just have like, I thought it was fun. Describing the Jolliday mansion was fun for me, and the environment and your clothes during the father's funeral. Yes, I love describing clothes and shoes.
yeah, no, when I'm reading this, I like the opulence of the scenes comes through, and I love that because I'm definitely a very unglamorous person. And that's okay. Some of us are less glamorous than others, but I like when I watch your or when I follow you on like Instagram and you have all of these amazing photos of your style and fashion and I'm like wearing yoga pants. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I'm
We
so
all have our own thing.
I
It's all good.
know. Yeah. No, it's great. Um like your pub day post with that gorgeous gown you were wearing. I thought that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, obviously you're not your characters or anything like that, but you're glamorous. That part of your personality, I can definitely feel that in this book when I read those scenes. So that's really cool. And I don't
Thanks.
know, maybe I don't know. It's just funny because like I put on like a sundress and I feel really glamorous.
That's true too. It's all about how you feel, to be honest.
Right. Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I that's 100% true. Um, so I know you talked about how you did a lot of research in talking to biracial people to get Hannah's character right. But was there another challenging part of this book, or was that the most challenging part? Just making sure that that part of her was accurate.
Yeah. So the most challenging part was Hannah. She really wasn't a situation for me. I wrote the first draft, and my editor was like, maybe do this and do that. So my issue was trying to understand Hannah's issue. You know, as writers, we sometimes give our characters 99 problems. And then to solve them is like a math equation. Like we're trying to connect the dots. Like we've given you all these issues. Now we have to be the therapist and figure out how to solve them. And I'm just like, damn, why did I make you this way? Because I don't know what to do. So I really had to try and understand. Hannah has issues about her father and her identity. Why? How does she solve them? What is the remedy? That's where the title came from. And so it took me a while. And once I found that it was self-love, I really had to like narrow everything down to that and connect it with different kinds of love, romantic, familial, and just bring everything together. This was a hard book to write. It's not a very long book, but the intricacy of finding an issue and solving it and then trying to make everything flow and connect together. Sometimes it's seamless, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you just have to like make everything a bit more crisp. So it wasn't easy, but I survived it.
No, and honestly, when you read the book, it doesn't, it flows so well. Your prose is so well written, and
Thank you.
the plot and the character arcs are so well done. So you would never know that it was a struggle at times to write it. But I think that's the goal as a writer. You want the final product to be fun and easy and engaging to read. You don't want the reader to know how difficult it was to get to that point.
Mhm.
Have you ever like written yourself into a corner? Like, did that happen at all with this book? Like, did you write something like, oh my God, what do I do next?
Yes, yes, with Hannah. I was like, what do I do? I really rewrote a lot of things.
Mhm,
And I had to make it seem natural. I didn't
mhm,
want someone, and initially I had someone when she got to that darkest point where she felt really low. I had a best friend speak to her, and it was very preachy
mhm,
and it just didn't fit.
mhm.
And so I had to make her come to the realization on her own, but not really on her own, just through what people have said before. So just kind of take a little bit of fear, a little bit of fear, and just gradually come to her own realization. So yeah.
No, I'm glad that you talked about that because I think, so I don't know, sometimes I talk to readers and they're like, oh, well, it must be so easy because you must just feel so inspired and you just write whatever you're feeling. And I mean, that is part of it, but it's also revisions and working with your editor and like realizing,
Revisions are the
okay,
worst.
yeah,
Oh,
oh my God, don't they? I mean, I understand and they're needed, but they can be so hard because I feel like I don't know if you get this way too, but like sometimes I feel like I'll write something like, well, I have no idea what is gonna happen or how I'm gonna get over that. I'm sure I'll figure it out at some point, but it's really crazy how the process I don't know if you feel like this, but sometimes I'm like, wow, did I really just finish writing that? Because there was a time when I didn't think I would finish writing that because it was just such a
yeah. When you finally get to that finish line, you're like, wow, I did it. I survived it. Because really, you're surviving something. I once tweeted that this book didn't thought it could kill me, but I killed it because it tried to kill me, but I killed it.
yeah, you killed it in the best way,
Thank
obviously.
you.
Yeah, it's I understand why people who don't write books, don't realize all the blood, sweat, and tears that you go through to put your book baby out into the world. But it's true, it's so hard. But yeah, but you get there. I have kind of a fun question, or what I think is a fun question. If you had to fan cast your book, like as a fun movie or a series, like do you know what actors you would want to play the main characters? Have you ever
I'm
thought about
ready
that? Okay, yes, tell
because
me,
I
tell me.
base each of the characters on real people.
Oh, yay. Okay. Yeah.
They're all Nigerian actors,
Yes.
so people would know them. But if you watch Chief Daddy the movie, for example, Tiwa, which is one of my favorite characters, she's based on a Nigerian singer called Tiwa Savage. Her entire appearance, I've never met her, but I feel like she has a very proud, but good proud, very confident, assured personality. Maybe a splash of arrogance. That's how I imagine her. So, she's based on Tiwa. And just a lot of Nigerian actors throughout the movie Chief Daddy were inspired each character. So, if Netflix ever wants to say, "Hey Jane, let's make your book into a movie," I will have the characters lined up, and I would want each of them to be Nigerian actors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I think I don't know anyone who would not want that because that's so integral and important to this story. Like, why wouldn't you? And like you would be the best person to talk to about that because you wrote the story. So I think you should, if that happens, I think you should be the casting director and be
I
in
think
charge of
so.
all casting. Would you ever be into like making a cameo in your Netflix movie, like with your glam
Oh,
dress?
I would love to, but I would have to have no lines or one line, or maybe just a word because I am a horrible actress.
I
I would
always
laugh, I would embarrass everyone, including my ancestors. So,
no, I've seen you on. And I know this isn't a movie, but anyone who doesn't know, you do the most amazing David's tea reviews on your Instagram. And I'm sorry. I hope it's okay that I'm bringing this. I love those. I live
thank
for those.
you.
You did a couple, or maybe you did like an advent calendar of it last
Mhm.
holiday, last Christmas. It was amazing. You're so charismatic, and you always like looked like you were shooting a commercial or something. So
Oh,
I
thanks,
think you should give
thanks.
yourself more credit. I mean, I think you should advocate for maybe like a side character role. I think you could do really well in that.
Well, that is an acting. Like, if I was to like memorize, I would honestly be laughed like this the whole time. The whole time.
Oh, but that maybe depending on the scene, that could work really well.
Maybe, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
All right. Well, yeah. Fun. I just always like asking authors that because it's just such a fun question. Because some authors, don't really picture anyone in particular. They just focus on the story. So, but I think it's fun to just think of, you know,
It
who you would
is.
want to play your
Yeah.
characters. Um, have you been getting a lot of like feedback from readers yet? I know it's only been a couple days since the book's been out, but has the response been what you had hoped?
Yeah, because of Book of the Month, people read it a lot earlier, so that was great. People do seem to like it, the multiple perspective and the fact that it's in Nigeria. People really love the food that I described. Quite frankly, I didn't think that was a big deal, but people seem to like the descriptions of food. So I want to do that more then. I didn't think anyone would pay attention to that actually. I just did it. So
It honestly, yeah, I've written about food too in my books, and it always blows me away like how that's one of the first things a lot of readers comment on, like, oh my gosh, the food and this,
yeah,
and this. And that's really cool. But I think it kind of makes sense too because I think most people enjoy eating food, and that's a cool way to connect with the character and with the story you love. So that's really that's really cool. Maybe you should do like another Instagram reel of you cooking something from the Sweetest
when I
Remedy.
I'm in a very stressful state. Um,
Yeah.
it's not like me doing David's tea,
Oh,
it's
okay.
not cute. I'm just like I'm angry. Cooking is actually an emotional roller coaster for me.
Okay. Do you cook often, or is it just like as needed? Like if you're hungry, you'll cook something really quick,
No, I
or
do cook often.
okay.
I recently learned to make one of my favorite Nigerian foods, jollof rice. My mother actually said this is a big deal. Jollof rice is like one of the best, most important African foods or Nigerian because different African countries make it. But I like to say that Nigerian jollof rice is the best, but the Ghanaians would disagree with that. there's a whole fight going on, but I'm going to say Nigerian jollof rice is the best. So I recently learned how to make it, and my mom was like, Jane, your jollof rice is better than mine.
Oh my
I tell
gosh,
you,
she
that
said
was the
that?
day I ascended to womanhood. That was the day.
Oh, oh my gosh. I mean, that's a pretty big compliment anytime, because, like usually it's hard to top whatever your mom
Hmm.
cooks. A lot of moms won't admit, like, you know what, this is better. So like your mom is just amazing for
Yeah.
admitting
I
that.
mean,
Wow.
I thought it. I was like, this is better than my mom's, but I'm not going to say it. I want her to say it. She said it.
Oh my gosh. That is well, congratulations. I think
Thank you. I
that
am
is
now a woman.
yeah. When did that happen? Was that recently?
Yeah, that was like a few weeks ago.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Congratulations! That's
Thank you
amazing.
so
I
much.
think that's best. Like, publishing a book and then besting your mom in cooking. Like,
Really.
it's pretty. Yeah. Like, um. What do you? Another silly question I always ask people, but like, what do you hope that readers get out of reading The Sweetest Remedy?
Um, I was very intentional with my description about Nigeria and the people and the culture. I really wanted to highlight how resilient the people are. I'm so proud to be Nigerian, and tomorrow is Nigerian Independence Day, and I will be doing the most on social media. Do follow my stories. I will be doing shout out to Nigerians. I just wanted to just highlight how I mean, Tiwa is she works at her dad's company. Shola is a Afrocentric fashion influencer. And the other sister, Dami, is a famous DJ. I just wanted to highlight how vast Nigerians' talents are. And I know people often have a perspective of how Nigeria is, the environment, the people. But my people are talented and they're resilient. And I'm so proud to be a Nigerian. So this was this book was dedicated to Nigerians. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you did that in the actual dedication of the book. You made it a point to dedicate it to Nigerian people, and I think that's amazing, and I think it's so great to see more stories, especially like romance rom-com genre stories, come from different countries, different backgrounds, and that's a really beautiful, wonderful way to show love to where you come from, and I think that's so great. Yeah, and that's great. I didn't know that tomorrow was Nigerian Independence Day. Do you do anything, like, will you be cooking this dish that you beat your mom at, or?
No, I won't. I won't be doing that because I did that a few weeks ago and it really stressed me out. This process is not an easy one. So tomorrow I'm just gonna do a few shout outs to some Nigerians that I admire on social media.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I'm sure you're gonna get a lot of shout outs too on social media. So, more so than, I mean, you've already been getting a lot of amazing shout outs on social media because your book came out this week. But yeah, that's so great. And I don't know, I think people can see, but like, if you guys have a question you want to ask Jane about her book or her glam life or her cooking secrets, please ask. I know I've been like asking her a million random questions so far. So if anybody wants to ask her.
Great questions, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I was trying to like mix like thoughtful questions with like random ones, like who would you fan cast in your book? Like,
I love that question. That's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello. This has been so fun to listen to. I have been I was like had a freak out moment where I was like, oh my gosh, am I muted? Because I was laughing out loud so hard at something that I was like, oh my gosh, are people listening to me in the background doing this? I think particularly I laughed out loud, Jane, when you were like, you would give our characters 99 problems, and then we're like, what do I do with you? Why did I make you this way?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
True struggle.
I also really enjoyed you saying that you fully ascended to womanhood.
I did.
This has been so fun to listen to. Oh, and Shagoo definitely needs his own story. Like, I don't know if you've already worked on it, but like if you haven't, I want to put in my my full weight of whatever that means as a bookseller, that's the story we're all begging for. He's so lovable. Oh my God.
He is, right? I've never written about a male protagonist before, but he might be an exception. He might be my first.
I think he's like worth it. I'm sure you're gonna be just the same way when you like write him in, where you're like, why did I make you this way? What did I do? But he is so great. We do have a question from Petra, if you're allowed to answer it, Jane. Can you tell us anything about your third book?
Sure. My third book is called Worth Having. I love that title. It's my favorite one. So it also takes place in Nigeria. I'm not doing too much of the description because I'm going to assume you read The Sweetest Remedy going into that. And it's a second chance romance. This is my favorite story yet. I cried a lot while reading it, like bawling at my computer for days. Why? I don't know. I just really related to the story. I feel like I must have lived it somehow in a past life. It's about like childhood lovers who are separated. They're Nigerian. They plan to get married and go to America together for school. The boy is poor and the girl comes from a wealthy family, and they're separated. They make a promise to come back together, but they don't keep their promise. And it's not just a promise, it's a blood oath. And a blood oath is something that's very talked about and symbolic in Nigeria. Children are warned never to do a love blood oath. I've seen Nigerian movies since I was a child, and it's like a scary thing because there are bad consequences. So I wanted to, like, bad consequences if you break them, death, madness. These were the terror stories I heard as a child. So they do this, and I wanted to write a story about what happened when they didn't keep the promise. So
can I just say, like, there's a happily ever after, right? Or can you give
maybe.
me?
That's
Okay,
why I was crying.
okay, I just like, I don't know if my heart can handle it. If like,
I couldn't handle it. Honestly, I went into the story not knowing if someone was gonna die, but I handled that away. But I cried a lot.
Oh, okay.
This already sounds like one of the books that, I mean, I'm going to read anything you write. I'm obsessed with everything that you write. It already sounds like I'm going to throw it against the wall. Like at some point, like, I mean, like in love, but I feel like I definitely, I'm nervous, Sarah, for our like, future emotional selves now. I feel like
I'm nervous too.
I could be in trouble here. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I have faith. Jane, you're not going to let us down. I know it's going to be an amazing read.
I'm going to try. I really am going to try.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to be like sliding into your DMs halfway through reading this manuscript and be like, Jane, what did you do to me?
You definitely will say that. You will.
Okay. I feel so. Also, I'm like now upset that I don't get to read this book for a while. Like, this is what, which I'm sure is like, what both of you authors are like. I know by the time a book is out, you've already worked on something else. Kind of as we talked about earlier, that you're like, what happened in that book? Like by the time you have to go on tour for it, you're like, I just remember what I even like wrote in that because I've already like moved on to my new set of characters. And now I lost my train of thought, but I was just that by the time you go on tour, you're like, can y'all appreciate the book that you have in front of you? Instead, we're already like, no, we need the next one. I know you're just like getting to live this week, but we already need the next one. We need it. And that's how I feel. A question for both of you. I mean, they're both gorgeous covers, but especially when I picked them up and had them beside me, I was like, oh my gosh, these are so vivid. There's so much color and wonderfulness going on that I feel like tells me the journey I'm about to go on. And so whoever wants to start, but question for both of you of just like, did you have any input on your covers? Was it kind of a surprise for you and you felt like immediately in love with it? Or just like, what is the journey that you and your covers have gone on together?
Sarah,
go ahead, Jane. You go ahead, Jane. Yeah.
Okay. I had too much input. They should have said no at some point. They didn't. They're just so nice to me at Berkeley. We went back and forth for like months. Unlike Ties That Tether, I didn't have a solid idea in mind. So it was a bit difficult to pinpoint what I wanted. But we came to this, It wasn't easy, a lot of drafts, a lot of frustration. I ranted a lot to my friends on the phone, but we got to this point, and I'm very happy with this cover. They look, Ties That Tether and the Sweetest Remedy look good together, so.
They really do. That's why I was like, what has this journey been? Because they're gorgeous beside each other. They're gorgeous independently. Also, I'm sure you didn't like try it, but like you kind of match your cover this evening with your like
I
green.
didn't try it, but thank you. I realized while I was sitting here.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, it just really, I'm so drawn to it. Sarah, what about your cover?
You know, funny story. I don't, I'm terrible because I'm not an artist, so I don't really know, other than please make it look pretty and, you know, here what I think the characters look like. I don't offer a lot of helpful guidance, which I don't know if that's good or bad.
That's
But
good.
is it good? Okay, I have no idea. Thankfully, the artist who did On Location's cover, she's amazing. She's so talented. Her name's Vicky Chu, and she's done my other previous covers with Berkeley, and they're so beautiful. And I've never really had to give a whole lot of guidance because she just nails it every time. Other than maybe like little tweaks here and there, but like again, I'm not an artist. I don't feel comfortable telling an artist like do this because if I had to design something, it would look, nobody would buy my book ever. It would be the worst cover in the world. But actually, funnily enough, Jane, when the artist was asking what I wanted for On Location's cover, I gave them Ties That Tether because I liked the way you can see Raphael's reflection in Zeri's. Yeah. And I'm like, if we could do something like that, that would be, even though I had no, I'm like, I don't know, could we maybe do something like that? I don't know how. Because she doesn't wear glasses and it would look weird if she had that. And Vicky nailed it because she put it in the camera lens. So,
I love that part of it.
Thank you. Cute. Yeah. So it's just like, I don't know. So thank you for inspiring my cover.
Sure. Yeah. One thing I love about your cover as well is that the guy, he has his eyebrow up, like it's kind of sexy.
That is such a fun detail.
Yeah, it's I thought it was like a good amount of like cheekiness. Like, you know that he's a little bit naughty, but in a good way.
Oh, wow. I'm obsessed. I love knowing that now. See, this is why it's so fun to talk with authors with each other. It's like, I mean, you know, we all can't wait till we can be back in person to do visits. I hope that you also feel that way. We certainly can't wait. But we also wouldn't necessarily get to see authors in conversation with each other. You know, that's like just, I don't know. The world of virtualness has opened up the ability to not have to worry about travel, right? And whoever's like accessible in that city. So I don't know how else I would have learned that you talked about Ties That Tether to the artist to make your cover. I do have a question about the romance genre as a whole. Because one thing that we know, and I actually have a statistic here. Let me pull it up. I don't know if you all have heard this before, but unit sales for romance books topped 47 million in the 12 months ending March 2021, representing an increase of 24% from the previous year. And I think I've definitely seen, as a bookseller, an evolution in how people think of romance differently than maybe the mass market, which I love mass market paperbacks. I want to be very clear. But people are starting to think differently of like the mass market paperbacks that maybe they've watched their parents read as they're growing up. And really just feels like the romance genre as a whole is getting a lot of excitement and encouragement that I think has always been there, but really feels like there's been a surge going on. And so just wondering like what both of your thoughts are on like how I mean, obviously you love the genre, you write within it. I would assume that means that you love it. What excites you the most about the genre and the direction that it's taking right now?
Okay, I'll go. I love the depth of the characters, the diversity and the depth. I've read, like, in the past few years, a lot of romance that's just not about romantic love. I read a romance. I think the author was. It was a book called The Right Swipe. I can't remember the author.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No,
And it had just great themes like sexual harassment in the workplace and issues that football players face with their health. And I thought that was so cool to put that in a romance. And then we have books like The Bride Test and The Kiss Quotient and The Heart Principle that are about characters that have a certain diagnosis. And it's just so cool to see all this diversity and all these different kind of issues human beings could have. And it's just given the romance genre, I think, a lot more depth, and it's making it so much diverse, not just, I'm going to say, with ethnicity or culture, but with people with different concerns, issues, and it's just made it incredibly broad. And I think a lot of people are currently represented in the romance genre, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Jane. That's really exciting to see. I think what also excites me is I feel like there's kind of a widespread, I don't know if acceptance is the right word, but like I feel like there's more excitement than there used to be about romance in the genre. And I feel like for a really long time there used to be, and I know that there's still a stigma, unfortunately. There are some people who, look down on romance for whatever ridiculous reason. But I feel like I talk to people now, and more people are like reading romance who wouldn't have maybe like 10 years ago, because I feel like it's become mainstream in a lot of ways. There's all sorts of like different cover styles that I think appeal to people, to readers now. So it's not just, I think for a while people associated with like, abs or like the guy with the show, which is great. I love those covers, but like we get illustrated covers too now. And I think that reaches a whole different audience too of readers. And it's just really exciting to see how more open-minded some people are being about, reading a romance book when maybe they wouldn't have been years ago. And I know that we as a genre still get a lot of hate and judgment and whatever. I just feel like people do that because it's just such a fun genre. It's a really empowering genre in a lot of ways. It's a very diverse genre, like Jane says. And I think some people, for whatever reason, just want to like be judgmental about it. But I don't know. I just love it so much, and I love seeing the increased support and interest in it.
Yeah, we are definitely finding it. That the same article I was just quoting from said that it also, all of that put the romance genre as the second highest selling genre, which I feel like is such an awesome thing for romance. And I agree with what you said, Jane and Sarah. Like it feels like we've gotten a lot of depth, and also I think we might have gained an appreciation for. I feel like something that I might have even held in the past of like, maybe more subconsciously, but like we appreciate happy ever after endings more, are guaranteed happy ever after because of, what's happening in our world right now. Like you're like, I want something that's going to make me feel things, that's going to make me have depth, but I also know that the author is going to take care of me in this way that at the end of it, I might throw my book against the wall, Jane, but then I'm still going to feel cared for even after. Which is really cool. And I think something that depth piece is certainly a reason that I've been drawn and have been following both of you as authors, because I feel like that is very evident throughout both of your works. So really appreciate that. The other thing I wanted to ask that we often don't get to see the background of, but I know is so important with authors, is like, what is your writer community like? Because I imagine there's a lot of support of connecting with other authors. And because I feel like I used to ask the question of like, how has the past year and like the pandemic potentially changed your or impacted your writing? And it's like, well, I've actually always worked kind of in this isolated or worked from home and worked on, you guys were discussing earlier about like building habits. So anyways, all of that to say, like, what is your writer community like? And what would you encourage others to find in their own writer communities?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. So I feel really lucky in that I feel like I have a really supportive group of people that I can go to, and we can read for each other, we can vent to each other, we can like share really exciting news with each other that like if I shared it with my husband or with my friend, they're like, what are you talking? I don't know what that means. But like it's really fun and wonderful to have that support system. So I have most of my personal writing community are people that I've connected with online through social media, and I've been able to meet a couple of them in person when it was safe to travel, but obviously now we're not meeting in person now because it's not really realistic to do that. But yeah, I just feel very thankful to have made the friendships that I have. And I, like you said, Stephanie, like it's going to be great to go back in person and start doing things like this in actual bookstores. But I think it's wonderful too that we live in a time where we can have a Zoom event like this, and I can, text my author friend at any point, and she can help me get through this horrible like scene that I just want to throw my laptop out the window because I'm just done, but I can't because I have a contract and a deadline and all that stuff. And I just feel really thankful that we live in a time where those kind of friendships can be maintained even during a pandemic, when you can't physically easily see people. So my personal writing community looks really tight knit and close, and I'm super, super thankful for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, my writing community, at first, when I started writing, I didn't have one. I was all alone, and it sucked. I didn't know what I was doing, and no one could help me. But I entered Pitch Wars, and I made my first ever writing friends through that writing contest. Yeah, and then I got into this group for diverse writers on Twitter. Mostly, they're all women actually. And I made a friend who read one of my drafts of Ties That Tether, and her name is Yasmin Unyango, and we just clicked, and we've been friends. And today, I told her I thanked her, I acknowledged her in my book, The Sweetest Remedy, and she was like, her book comes out in November. Her first novel comes out in November. And she was like, oh, I acknowledge you too. And then we both cried virtually together.
I saw your gift, Jane, on Twitter of that, where you guys are like,
yeah, so like I just like met this girl online, her and some other friend that I met online on Twitter. And then I found out that she lives in Brampton, like 10 minutes from me. And I was like, this is fate. Then we had a coffee and we just clicked. And I'm so happy I met these people on Twitter. Bless that bird app. And yeah, that's my writing community. Some other writers as well, but I depend on those two women the most, Louisa and Yasmin.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to read the acknowledgments of Yasmin's too. I actually have totally converted to, not converted, but like I super read acknowledgments now because there's often like little gems hidden in there, and I keep trying to spread the news of like there's always something great in there, like you should definitely read who has impacted this author because it's so cool. I know we are wrapping up for the evening, but I have some quick like rapid fire like first reaction questions for you that are inspired by the romance genre. The first question is actually inspired by Ties That Tether, Jane, because there's so many great rom-coms that are mentioned throughout Ties That Tether. So You've Got Mail or Sleepless in Seattle?
I'm so sorry. I've never seen either of those movies.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh that hard. I'm sorry.
You should. Look, don't judge me. I'm not a fan of Tom Hanks.
That's amazing.
I've seen them. I've had the opportunity, but Tom Hanks doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah.
Honestly, that's so funny.
It's hilarious. But you're so right, Jane, because I mean, I've seen both and they're both cute, but like I didn't see them because I thought Tom Hanks was anything,
He's
the internet is gonna come for us so hard.
I know.
I personally don't get it. I liked him in Castaway, but as a romance lead, what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to everyone.
No, it's fair. Sarah, have you seen them? Do you have a
I
preference?
have, yeah, and I probably would pick Sleepless in Seattle. I don't. There's just something about that because it's like he was on. That was one where he's on like the radio, or she's on the radio, or I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Sarah, and they
Yeah,
barely know each other, and then they
yeah,
meet up in this tower.
right.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm so
And
curious. I'm just
yeah, it's
smiling.
very cute. I wasn't sexually attracted to Tom Hanks when I was watching it.
wow, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going, but just know I'm gonna think about this conversation for a minute. It's gonna be in here. It's gonna live rent free in my head in such a great way, like in such a perfect way. And I will say, I have never watched Chief Daddy. Just as like, I feel like I'm super.
Understandable.
I wrote it down, and I'm for sure. I mean, I think Jane, Netflix needs to like give you like from here on out, like your endorsement for Chief Daddy. Like they need to owe you royalties. Like
Because I'm endorsing that movie so hard in every interview.
they owe you royalties, and I will tell them personally. Okay, I know for a fact you can answer the next three. So just we got the tough one out of the way. Y'all are gonna do great. Historical romance or paranormal romance?
Paranormal.
Love that.
Sarah J. Maas.
I mean, yeah. Sarah, are you about to say neither?
No, I was actually going to say probably historical, probably, but like not. I mean, not vastly more than the other. You know, yeah, they're both fun.
Historical is great. I mean, obviously the people are responding well to Bridgerton, and that was out here for like a minute, and then all of a sudden we were like, oh hey, okay, great. Yeah, paranormal has really gotten me recently though. Historical was my segue back into the romance genre and like helping me break some barriers that I had. And then listen, paranormal has really been like, once you're in, you're like in. That's how you know, right? Okay, enemies to lovers or friends to lovers?
Oh, it's a hard one. Enemies to lovers. I love the tension.
Same, hands down, and it's all. I mean, it's the only thing I ever write, so obviously,
it's like the whole thing.
And your first book, Faker, loved it.
Oh, did you? Oh, thank you for saying that. Thank you.
That was actually the first time that and The Hating Game.
Yes, yeah.
I love that shoot because of those two books.
Oh,
yeah.
It was the one that I felt like I shouldn't love the most. And I'm like, listen, just Kate, you love when there's tension. You love when there's like a bad boy that you hate inherently. And then you're like, wow, he's the opposite of Tom Hanks. Super attractive. Okay. And final one, another classic trope against trope, forbidden love or second chances, which got interesting now that I wrote that before I found out what's happening in Jane's next book. So
second chance. I love when they already love each other, and now they're just finding their way back to each other. That's really it just warms my heart. Yes.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I love both, but second chance, I'd have to agree. Yeah, there's just something extra lovey-dovey. Yeah, more. Yeah, it's just so good. Yeah.
It's hard to choose between the two. I mean, these are all, you did great. I appreciate that no one said neither. Okay, we'll circle back to You've Got Mail and Sleepless in Seattle. The internet is just gonna love it. This has been so incredibly fun. Thank you both so much. I just want to take one more second to throw out for everyone watching where you can purchase these books from us, or if you're in St. Louis, you can come to the store, obviously. But if you are not in St. Louis, we are so happy to ship. There's also, these are the two that I have in front of me because these are the two recent releases, but please feel free. I encourage you to go check out the backlist. If you're like, you guys mentioned books I haven't heard tonight, like what is Faker or what is this? Ties That Tether, like I haven't read those. Everything from both these authors is so incredibly wonderful. Almost as wonderful as this conversation. So thank you both again so much for being here. Happy Pub Week, Jane. And anything you want to say before we sign off?
Thanks for this opportunity. I'm so happy to have spoken to Sarah. I feel like it's been a long time coming, And this was great. And hopefully we get to meet in person one day.
Yes, I would love that so much. Yeah, this was so fun to celebrate your release, Jane. Thank you so much for letting me be part of it. It was so great.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for watching. We will see you back on our YouTube channel in a little bit. So good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.